Hey, Shalom, Shalom. This is Brother Yeshua from the GMS Atlanta camp. Before I get into his message, all praises, all glory, all honor to Yahweh Hashem Avshai, Hashem Kadash, and double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who know and teach well, who taught us this truth. Now, this is just, a quick hitter, every now and then, I'm sure that brothers can relate, but we go through the day, we think about certain videos that we saw, about certain interactions that we had with people throughout our day, and it inspires us to do messages. And that's exactly what this is going into. It was an inspiration of through a conversation that I had with somebody. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do this. I don't even have that on there. But this is inspired through a conversation that I had with somebody who I believe would be a 2/3 today. All right, now I work in roofing, right? In the construction field, you come across a lot of Israelites, specifically Northern Kingdom, because that's exactly who's building these Edomites' houses. And the question got brought up, because he just asked me about, well, what do you think about what's going on here in the world and yada yada? We just got to get right. And so I asked him, okay, so what is getting right? Now, what are some precepts that come to mind when you think about getting right? Well, those precepts, me, there's a bunch of them, by the way. There is no right or wrong precepts, but for, some of the precepts that came into my mind was Revelations 19, where it talks about the bride getting herself ready. Now, we are Yahweh Hashem Yahushai's bride, right? Because Jeremiah 6, verse 2 likens Israel to a comely woman, right? So we are that bride getting ready. And so how does a bride get ready? She adorns herself. She cleans herself. Okay. And then she looks forward to her husband. And that's what we've done. Okay. But these Christians, this world, they don't understand what that means, man. Because this man told me that, we just got to get ready. And I asked him a question. I said, well, what do you mean by getting ready? We just have to be ready. He said something to the effect of, we just have to get right. So then I said, okay, well, if you have to get right, then how do you get right? What's sin? He couldn't answer it. Sin is, this, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, actually, 1 John 3, verse 4. Let's get that. Whosoever commits sins transgresseth also the law, for sin is a transgression of the law. So how can you get right if you don't know what sin is? And then if the law wasn't ever given to you, how can you sin against that? Let me give you a worldly a parallel here. How can you say that you have the rights of a Japanese when you're in America? How can you say that you have the rights of a Chinese when you're in Mexico? What do I mean by that? Every so-called citizen born into a certain country has these endowed rights, right? These endowed rights that have been written by men, these Edomites. They have these endowed rights that has been written by Edomites. Or Moabites that have taken over the globe. So everybody born into a certain country has these certain rights. Now, do the rights of a so-called Chinese apply to a newborn American? The answer is no. So then how can you get right with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai if you were never given the law, man? And that's what these people, they don't understand, man. Okay, because these people are calling upon a false name. And, this is just a cut for these small hats too. But it also goes to show you what would end up happening is that we would call upon the right name. All right, so this is Baruch 2, and I'm going to start at 30. It says, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, and that's exactly who our people are. You can show them, the name of Yahweh, going into the blue letter, breaking it down, showing them the Assyrian to the Paleo, but they just still will not get it. Something in their freaking mind has been embedded, and it's upsetting. But when you understand who's embedded that thought, then you're going to have some peace. Like, okay. So I shouldn't be upset that you can't get it. I should be actually glad because you can't get it because you're about to be destroyed. Because our people are a stiff-necked people. I mean, what the scripture says, um, it says the ox knows his maker, but Israel does not consider. Our people will acknowledge that they're so-called blacks, that they're so-called Mexicans, that they're so-called Native Americans, but they won't acknowledge the curses. You know, and Second Ezra goes into that, is that everybody goes through these curses, man. A lot of our people are going through these curses without a paycheck at the end of the tunnel, man. And you know what? For those, what's Romans 11 say, that he has reserved 7,000 men that have not bowed their knee to Baal. Hey, man, so for those of those men that have been reserved to not bow their knee, hey, we're going through the curses, and at least we have hope. We have hope that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is going to come back. We have hope that we're going to rule this world, right? We have hope that we're going to be saved. These people, they don't have it, man. They don't have the idea. They don't have the thought that them being slaves, that somebody has to pay for justice. And that's because they're hard-headed. Isaiah 44, verse 18. They've been blinded, man. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. And that's what's going on today. These people, our people, still think that they're black. Our people still think that they're Mexican. Our people still think that they're Native Americans, fucking totem pole worshipers, fucking Aztec warriors, man. Fuck out of here with that shit, man. This is the land of our captivities, and how are we remembering ourselves? Why? Because when you go into Genesis 49, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. All right? Now, Judah goes into the so-called blacks, man. Through Abba Bivin, starting from 1969, that's when the truth came back out. And now we are starting to remember ourselves, because Yahweh Hashem Yahushua said that he will send pastors after his own heart. I'm not going to pull up the scriptures. I'm not going to do that, Brothers know which scriptures I'm talking about. All right? But that's what this is going into, is that you would have a so-called black man to lead the Israelites back into who they were. I mean, come on, man. Think about this shit right here, man. Like, you had the so-called blacks leading the Hispanics into oldies music. You had the so-called blacks. The so-called blacks have been the forefront runners of inventions and what's the word that I'm looking for? Tides. What's that? What's the word that I'm looking for? I don't know the word that I'm looking for. It's basically the world has copied what the so-called blacks do, man. And scripture says that the tents of Judah shall be saved first, right? Okay, and that's exactly what happened, man. Is that the truth was given to Abba Bivens, and then he came out, and we are remembering ourselves, man. Let's get 31. It says, and shall know that I am Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, their God, for I will give them a heart and ears to hear. And when was that heart and ears to hear given? Well, let's just go ahead and pull a quick pause here, and let's get Ephesians 1, verse 5. It says, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua Mashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. So those ears to hear were given before the earth was laid, man. All right, because there are certain people that have been put forth to be saved, and there are certain people that have been put forth to be destroyed. All right, so if you can hear this truth, man, that's what getting your house right goes into, man. All right? Calling upon Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. That's what salvation goes into, man. Our people won't even do that. If, God, as a Hispanic, when you have a Hispanic last name, what do you consistently do? You have to consistently correct people on how to enunciate your last name. Or your first name even. Oh, well, no, it's actually this. It's actually this. And then what do they say? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. And then they enunciate how you told them. They won't do that with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. Our own people who have to deal with this issue, they won't do that with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And that's why these people got to be destroyed, man. Verse 32 says, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. And that's how you go back to that preparation. Because the conversation that I have with these fucking, looks to be like a 2/3. I don't know. He may end up getting it. I don't know. But the point is that you have to think upon the name, because that's where salvation comes from. You have to be able to understand that the letter J is only 500 years old. So what was his name 2,000 years ago? You can't prepare yourself if you're not calling upon the right name, man. Now, I quoted a couple of scriptures. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up. I believe it was Isaiah 44. And verse 18, it says, they have not known nor understood. Because, see, as some are remembering who we are as a people, there are some that they just still cannot understand, man. All right? Just as we just read in Ephesians 1, verse 5, those people have been predestinated to be saved. Some people have been predestinated to be destroyed. It says, for he has shut their eyes. Who? Who has shut their eyes? Yahweh Shem Yahushai has shut their eyes. And that shows you that Yahweh Shem Yahushai is not just of God, a God of love, man. That shows you that Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that concludes and that feeds upon that precept that Yahweh Shem Yahushai is a man of war, because he shuts your eyes to destroy your fucking ass, man. And that's what a lot of these people deserve, man. You know what? Because when we come into this truth, this truth that has been so long without fruit, according to 2nd Ezra, when we tell our people this, and then you can show them this, and then there's no excuse. This is a name. This is what he looks like. He's not a so-called white man. And these people still, I don't know. Hey, man, you know what? At that point, man, if you don't know why Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to teach your fucking ass, man, by destroying you. Okay? 2nd Ezra goes into that. The same must know after death by pain, because they have loathed their law, man. They have loathed the law of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. That very same law that was only given to a certain group of people. Psalm 147, verse 19 and 20 goes into that, man. Here we have this gift, this beautiful gift that nobody had, but yet you still won't abide by it. You don't want the milk. You don't want the lottery, and you still won't abide by it. Hey, man, then you're a fucking dumbass, bro. You got to get destroyed. You got to get the fuck up out of here, man. And that's what Yahweh Shem Yahushua is saying. Salakia for the rough language, but you know what? We can even get into that too. We can go into the fact that that we would have those stuttering tongues, because when you go into that stuttering tongue, it goes into a place of like a knowing, a place of somewhat pride, and that's what we have, man. We have pride, man, because we know what the scriptures say now. We're upset. Shouldn't you be upset? Wouldn't you be upset if you were fed a lie and then you have all these scriptures that you had in front of your face but you never read or understood because the so-called white man was, sown confusion into it? Yeah, we have a right to be upset, man. So for all you soft-ass fools out there, why you gotta be mean? Why you gotta be a bitch, bro? Basically, break that down. Why you gotta be a bitch? Why can you watch a Netflix movie? Why can you watch South Park or fucking Family Guy? But yeah, you got a problem when the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushua bring out the scriptures, man. Get the fuck up out of here, bro. Why you gotta be a bitch? Ask yourself that before you ask why we have to have this rough language. Because we're tired of this shit, man. We're tired of showing you people what the scriptures say, and then it doesn't bring it, all right? Now, we understand that all of this is part of the work, right? We understand that. Hey, man, but, we are mortal men. At this point, we are mortal men. We are subject to sin, subject to vanity, man. But let's continue on. It says that they cannot see in their hearts, that they cannot understand. And so there's that balance, man. And so that, when we get upset about these people not being able to grasp what we're telling them, hey, it just makes it so much better for us because we understand that we have that blessing. That Yahweh Shem Yahushua has closed your eyes and that we have that blessing. And, I'm going to finish off with this. It says Matthew 13 and 10 because the belief of Christianity is that everybody can get it. But I just read to you Isaiah 44 and 18 and Matthew 13, because a lot of these stupid-ass Christians, well, that's in the Old Testament. No, man, fuck you, man. Matthew 13, verse 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou into them in parables? If salvation was for everybody, why don't you just make it plain? Why? Why do you have to search the scriptures? Why do you have to go into the history? Why do you have to go into the Renaissance? Why? Because salvation isn't meant for everybody, man. If it was easy for you to be a billionaire, why can't everybody be a billionaire? Right? Why don't people question that? Well, if it's so easy, how many fucking stupid ass YouTube videos are out there? A millionaire wakes up at 2 a.m. and shaves his. It's just a stupidity, right? I'll do that. I'll wake up at 3 a.m. I'll get in the ice shower, and then I'll be a billionaire. Y'all understand that that's not the way it works. Y'all understand on a worldly level that there are just certain Amalekites, specifically Edomites, that have the riches of this earth, and that's their blessing. Genesis 27, 39 and 40. Okay? That's why he speaks in parables, because it's not meant for everybody. Just like it's not meant for everybody to be a billionaire, it's not meant for everybody to get saved. And Yahweh Shai himself told you that. All right? Because if it was meant for everybody, he would have made it simple and said, this is what's going to happen, this is this. But that's not how he spoke. Right? That's not how he spoke. He said, in 3 days, this temple shall be torn down. And what did the Pharisees say? Well, this temple took, hundreds of years to be built up. Why did he speak in parables? Because it was only for the elect. It was only for the elect. The book of Romans goes into that. The rest have been blinded, but the elect have received it, man. Verse 11, he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it's not given. Now, who gives everything? Doesn't everything come from Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai? He does. So if Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai hasn't given it to you, that means because he's predestinated your ass to be fucking destroyed. So to circle back and to end the point of the conversation that was had earlier about our people so-called getting ready, you have to get ready first and foremost. You have to be ordained, Ephesians 1, verse 5, before the foundations of the earth to be saved. That's first and foremost. Second of all, you have to be an Israelite. And being an Israelite means that you have to be calling upon the right name. That's how you get saved about this place, man. But hey, you know what? If y'all don't believe it, then don't believe it. At the end of the day, you're just fulfilling your role, man. That's what salvation is. Until next one, shalom.